here to represent the Coldean Community Organisation. We are based obviously in Coldean, and we'd like to talk to you about who we are, what we're up to regarding housing, and most importantly how we've got to where we are. So Ian and I are both passionate about housing, about building good, affordable, sustainable housing that offers alternatives to mortgages that are unaffordable for many, or the not so great option, sadly, of private renting. We think that housing is a basic need and should be about people, not about profit. And we also really passionately believe that communities should be involved in how their own area develops as well, and their needs and desires taken into consideration. Ian runs an architectural practice based in Brighton called Studio Sevens, and over the last few years has been keen to develop a mechanism or vehicle for enabling communities to engage in their own needs, take ownership of them and get support to develop solutions. And Coldean, as a community, Coldean has been one of the organisations benefiting from the Brighton and Hove CLT's community housing programme. So a bit about our journey so far. We've lived in East Brighton, first in Moulsecoomb and now in Coldean for the last 13 years. We love that edge of the city with its great community, the Downs on our doorstep. We're surrounded by the National Park, yet we're only a few miles from the city centre, so we do kind of feel like we have the best of both worlds. But we've seen some of the challenges as we've lived in this part of Brighton over the years of rising house prices, reduced tenancy security. There's a lot, an increasing number of HMOs in Coldean, Moulsecoomb, Dundee, which often prices out families and makes houses harder to buy and rent. We've seen numerous friends over the years have to move out of the area just because they can't afford to buy or rent anymore, so either uprooting their children from school or driving back daily. Because they don't want to do that. So yeah, we just really want to try and find another way of doing housing that isn't the private renting or the mortgage, which isn't possible for a lot. So around 5 years ago, we began to make inquiries within the community about whether there might be interest in developing some affordable family housing. And we found there's a great need, but at that time not a lot of capacity. But out of the citywide networking that we did at that point, Ian became involved in the group that started to form the Brighton and Hove Community Land Trust, which has grown to really be able to become the group it is now to support lots of other groups and their community-led housing. So over the last year, we have had a lot of help from DOT, who is the community enabler. We started running Have Your Say meetings in Coldean to bring together residents to talk about the good things about the area, the not so good things, what could be improved, what people want to get involved with. And so we had a few open meetings, and out of this 4 issues came up was the need for affordable housing, a community hub, green spaces and local connections. So we estimate that about 50 or 60 residents came along to these meetings, which we thought was a really great start, and we're continuing that community engagement and try and get more to come as we hold monthly meetings now. 4 groups that really got involved in those were the Coldean Residents Association, which has been going for a long time. They've really supported us the whole way along. Selby Housing Co-op, and you'll hear from Polly up here later on. Friends of Coldean Woods is a local voluntary group, and Bevendine Gymnastics Club, who Ian will talk a bit more about in a few minutes. But Gym Club can't be here today because they're teaching gymnastics, including one of our children at the moment, so they're very busy every Saturday with that. But what really became clear last year during the Have Your Say meetings that we did was that there's a lot of individuals and different community groups that really want to do a lot to help the community and do some good, but just didn't necessarily know where to start. So after spending the last summer talking and planning, following these meetings and all the ideas that came out of it, we got together with Selby Housing Co-op and Bevendine Gymnastics Club, Ian and myself, and formed a new group, which is the Coldean Community Organisation. And we are a community benefit society, and we've gone that route because we want to do as we're called, we want to benefit the whole community, not just through housing, but through supporting different groups, whether it's Coldean, the Friends of Coldean Woods or other groups that are going on. We really want to be able to support the community in whatever ways we can. And the 2 projects that came out, 2 of the 4 things that came out are 2 projects to build affordable housing and to hopefully build a community hub as well. We've had a lot of support over autumn and ongoing from Andrew Jones, who's a community-led housing programme manager at the CLT, and that's just been fantastic. And also Nicola has been involved. We're negotiating with the council about some land, and at the end of January we put in a bid to Homes for England for help with the pre-development to really get the housing up, off the ground. And so Ian is going to talk a bit more about what we're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, so there you go, there's a statement up there you can have a read of, and some mugshots as well. This is the team, this is who is currently overseeing Coldean Community Organisation. So it's a core team of directors, 3 ladies from Bevendine Gymnastics Club, who we talked about, 2 members of Selby Housing Co-op, and Caroline and myself. We opted for a community benefit society because we feel it reflects what we want to do in our neighbourhood. We're taking a slightly different approach to community-led development in that we recognise and believe that actually it takes more than just housing to build community. So we've got quite a big vision for CCORG and the part that it can play in our community. And we hope that that will happen for many decades to come. So it's not just about one generation, one group of people, but about the next generations that follow on after us. Later this year we're planning to open up membership to local people so they can all become members of our organisation and then help to shape it as we move forward. So Caroline's already said we've got 2 projects going forward, affordable housing and a community hub. And I'll just say that the Friends of Coldean Woods that Caroline mentioned earlier on are one of the groups that we've kind of been involved with, and they are getting to grips with some of the green spaces in Coldean and planting trees and working with residents to kind of create better amenity spaces there, because at the moment they're just kind of big swathes of grass that nobody even uses. Housing, we'll probably all agree it's in crisis at the moment, and particularly in the southeast. There's a desperate need for secure, affordable, environmentally sensitive homes. And it's a crisis that doesn't just apply to people maybe on the council waiting list or those stuck in poor quality accommodation. But many in Brighton and Hove would say that they're not impoverished enough to qualify for social housing, but neither are they wealthy enough to be able to afford a mortgage. And so they're left with the private rental sector, which often can be unaffordable, have insecure tenancies, can be badly managed, and may even force you to move away from the area that you actually want to be in. So we want to build 16 family-sized, community-owned homes that will be available to rent. And the reason that we're going down that route is that they will remain owned by the community in perpetuity. So they are legacy housing, as I said, for many generations, not just for the first group of people who move in. So with the homes out of private ownership and the land that they're built on being held by the CLT, we can remove the tenancy and cost insecurity that the current rental market is riddled with. So we've been working closely with the CLT, who are talking to the council for us about urban fringe land in Coldean, where we feel that we could build these homes. And I think without that relationship that the CLT have built up with the council, we'd be really struggling with that interface. We're also working with a local eco-building specialist to develop a locally made modular construction system using straw SIPS panels, which could be used for both housing and larger projects alike. Something that we hope could become an exemplar model for other projects across the city as well. We also want to use that to train the next generation of builders in the city, so we're hoping to work with some of the construction colleges to train up young people who want to get into construction in sustainable technologies and materials, because at the moment it's very niche and it needs to become quite mainstream. So that's what we want to do. Bevendine Gymnastics Club, who we've talked about, is a volunteer-run organisation. They've been teaching gymnastics to young people in the city for over 40 years. They're one of only a small number that are left in the city now, but they've never had their own facilities. They've only ever rented school halls or rented out spaces for their equipment. So they've always kind of been moving about, been transitory. So they're called Bevendine Gymnastics Club because that's where they started, but they're based in Coldean now. That said, they have gymnasts at the English finals. They've got 150 kids on roll at the minute and 300 on a waiting list. They desperately need a home to be able to teach better, to be able to teach more. So we're proposing to build a community hub with space for gymnastics, but equally other sports as well. And it will also have meeting rooms, a social club for the community, a community kitchen and cafe, and we're still evolving that because there's all manner of things that could be involved in that as well. So here we go. So here's a site plan. This is our site concept. The site that we're looking at is behind Varley Halls, just up Coldean Lane. So we're aiming to build housing in either this space here or perhaps down here. Depends on how the negotiations go with the council as to what they are prepared to give us, not give us, let us have access to. With our community hub down here, and the potential for some commercial units as well to bring in additional revenue to support all of this at the end as well. We're aiming for high performance buildings, built using local materials and local labour. As much as possible we want to be off-grid, so sustainable technology is being built into this to reduce the long-standing overheads that we might have otherwise. There's a strong desire as well for Coldean Community Organisation to build housing which improves the living standards of its members. It gives dignity, it reduces consumption, and it increases mutual community engagement. So, it's more than just, this is my house, this is my garden, and that's it. It's about inclusion. So, obviously alongside this we're also trying to develop our financial models, which, as you can imagine, for a project such as this is quite substantial. CLT's financial enabler has been going through spreadsheet after spreadsheet after spreadsheet with us, and we're trying out all these different scenarios to work out our affordability levels and how we can make housing really accessible to people. We've got to make it viable, but we have to be able to present it in a way that demonstrates that it stacks up for fundraisers, funding bodies, and ultimately capital funding streams as well for building it. We want to do more. This is kind of our first project, but actually we have a vision for this organisation being involved in neighbourhood planning, perhaps building more community-owned homes in the future. In other parts of Coldean, we have ideas about that, which you can ask me about afterwards if you want. We want to support other groups as well. We're learning stuff, and it's really important that we get to share the stuff that we're learning. And we want to develop the housing model as well, because we think it's something that could be rolled out elsewhere. So we realise it's no small undertaking. It's a massive project, but it will have a positive effect on our community and on the people who live in it. We wanted to provide a template for how other communities in the city could develop as well. Develop what they need. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's the same thing that we're doing, but to figure it out and work on it together. Hope that's a bit of interest and raised some questions. I'll happily answer any now. So we've gradually been putting together some policies, one specifically on membership, another one on eligibility and allocations. Some of the homes would be available for the home move list from the council, because we recognise that we can't just isolate, say this is just about Coldean. But what we have tried to do, because it's a Coldean-led development, is we are putting into that criteria something about having a connection to the area. So it might be that you have family in the area, it might be that you work in the area, your children are at the school. Equally, the whole idea of cooperability as an eligibility criteria is in there, about being willing to be building community in this way. So we're gradually developing those policies. It's it's an iterative process, but that's the plan.
Actually, what came out of our Have Your Say meetings last year is that there's a desire for more houses to rent. I think a lot of people in Coldean maybe know that they couldn't get a mortgage on their own, and are happy renting, but want affordable rent, secure.
But also want to know that their rent isn't just lining the pockets of someone who lives elsewhere, that the money stays local. And so by setting up a community benefit society, anything that comes into the society, any profit we make, goes straight back into the community. So it's contained within the area in that sense. We recognise in our community we have a large number of tradespeople and small business owners, perhaps working from home, but can't afford to get an office in town, and then, for instance. And so we're investigating the opportunities that might be there for people to gain access to spaces that enables them to grow.
But again, we don't want to be inclusive, because although we're focused on Coldean, we want it to come out of Coldean. Actually, Coldean needs to grow and develop, and areas always need new people to move in and families to come in. So we're not just insular, but we're very much, as a basis, what's going on in this area, how can we build on that, and how can we bring other people in as well.
We're working with a local eco-builder who is a straw bale specialist.
Can we look that up?
Sorry?
Can we look that up?
Yeah, I mean, he's part of the Permaculture Trust. His name's Ian Brown, and he is doing a talk at Green Architecture Day later this month. I think it's on the 30th. And we're working with him to develop a system of construction called SIPS panels, structurally insulated panels, that means that you can put up a frame very, very quickly, and then you clad it. So it's quite a quick method of production, but it's also built off-site, so you can ensure that the quality is much, much higher. It'd be high performance, local materials, local labour to build it, but it's a system that we're developing. There are a couple of systems out there already that use straw for this. One of them is in Bristol and is a very good system, works very well. They use that for lilac in Leeds, and another one comes from Latvia or Lithuania, I can never remember which one. And we'd like to develop a local one.
So it's tried and tested with lilac?
The system is tried and tested, yes. Yeah.
Brighton and Hove Community Land Trust supports groups of people who want to create their own community-led housing projects. Join us at BHCLT.org.uk.